Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, a new law to save settlements puts the coalition in jeopardy. The U.S. Congress passes a bill to extend sanctions against Iran, and swimmers cross the Dead Sea for a very important mission. I'm Aaron Porras, here with the latest news from Israel. There's high drama in the Israeli Knesset today because of a sudden turn of events that averted a crisis threatening to bring down the government.
We expect the right-wing government to implement a right-wing solution. And this is the right solution, this is the just solution to let us stay and live here and to compensate any Arab who has a claim, real claim over the land, who can prove it.
In a preliminary vote, the Knesset today passed the controversial regulation bill. The proposed legislation would grant retroactive authorization to the Amona outpost and other West Bank properties like it. Jewish Home Party leader Naftali Bennett, who is a key proponent of the bill, had this to say.
This bill is a bill of normalization, to finally tell them you are no longer second-class citizens.
Palestinian officials, however, reject any Israeli presence beyond the Green Line and do not exactly share Bennett's views of the proposed legislation.
We consider all settlements illegal, whether they are on public land or private land. But now it extends the confiscation of territory to private Palestinian land where settlers and the illegal Israeli occupation can steal, outright theft.
This morning, Finance Minister Moshe Kachlon said that he and other members of his center-right Kulanu party might not show up for the session out of concern that the bill's passage would negatively impact the High Court. Amona was set to be demolished next month by orders from the justices, who also refused a government request for a delay. But after meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this afternoon, Kachlon reversed his position and voted in favor of the proposed legislation. To secure that support, Netanyahu reportedly promised his finance minister that the bill will not be advanced for the 3 readings required to pass the bill into law. Of all of the key promises that President-elect Donald Trump has made on the campaign trail, his promise to repeal the Iranian nuclear agreement is one of the most well-known. Well, the United States Congress just passed a bill that could make keeping that promise much easier. The United States Congress has passed a bill that could pave the way for President-elect Donald Trump to pull out of the Iranian nuclear deal. The House of Representatives passed a 10-year extension of sanctions against Iran that were due to expire on December 31st of 2016. The bill passed with practically no opposition by a vote of 419 to 1. The pro-Israel lobby AIPAC is now urging the Senate to pass a similar bill, and President Obama has already indicated that he would not try to block an extension of said sanctions. The Iran Sanctions Act penalizes Iran's nuclear program and other dangerous activities, including its support of terrorism, illicit arms trade, and its banned ballistic missile program. The renewed sanctions could bring a collapse of the Iranian nuclear deal, which exchanged a nuclear rollback in exchange for sanctions relief. If President Trump were to decide to scrap the deal, he could do so by simply ceasing to waive existing sanctions. It's been over 1 year since the enactment of the Iranian nuclear agreement, but rather than ceasing their support for terror and regional instability as promised, Iran is increasing it. Now nearly a dozen Arab countries are coming together and openly stating their disapproval. Outgoing UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon just received the charges in a letter from 11 different Muslim states. The signatories are accusing the hardline Iranian regime of wreaking havoc and instability in the Middle East by relentlessly engaging in terrorism. The charges include engagement in regional terror as well as efforts to export terrorism abroad. Iran was specifically blasted for supporting Hezbollah, the Lebanon-based terror group which frequently threatens the state of Israel and is also heavily involved in the Syrian civil war. The Arab group went on to condemn the Islamic Republic for its expansionist policies, flagrant violations of other nations' sovereignty, and continual interference in the internal affairs of other Arab states. The document was signed by the UN ambassadors from Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, Kuwait, Morocco, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, the United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. The UN Watch monitoring group says that its denunciation from these Muslim Arab countries is very important because it doesn't permit Iran to get away from its usual claim that any criticism of its policies are part of a Western plot. Early on in the incoming administration of Donald Trump, the new American president will attempt to reassert American leadership in the Middle East. At least that's the view of foreign policy expert Amos Asael, who told ILTV's Steve Leibowitz that in his view, President Trump will try to roll back Russian influence in Egypt, Syria, and elsewhere.
I think that, once again, predictions with Donald Trump are very difficult to make. But if I try to bring together what we witnessed in 8 years of an Obama foreign policy, that today we learned was evidently disagreeable to the American majority. If I try to see what they did then that is now seen as having been done wrong by the American voter, and if I see what Donald Trump is committed to and how he's structured generally from what we've heard from him so much, my conclusion is that he will make an effort to restore respect for America where it has been lost, and that begins in the Middle East. It proceeds from there to anywhere and everywhere from the Ukraine to the South China Sea. But in the Middle East, the loss of respect for America was expressed more than in any other way by Egypt's return to Russia's fold. It did not fully return there, but when it understood, after what happened between Obama and Mubarak, that it cannot rely on America's alliance, then it began dancing with the Russian wolf. And it did so bluntly in broad daylight by bringing to Cairo simultaneously the Russian defense and foreign ministers, signing with them elaborate multi-billion-dollar deals for arms supplies. And one should bear in mind that there were no Russian-Egyptian arms deals since the days of Jimmy Carter in the mid-70s. That's when, under Sadat's leadership, Egypt defected from the east to the west. This came undone under Obama's, or during Obama's shift. And I think that it's the kind of thing that Donald Trump will now want to reverse and can indeed reverse. The way for him to reverse this is to look at what is happening right now in Egypt, redefine Egypt as America's anchor in the Middle East, and do it by helping Egypt back on its economic feet. The economy there is in deep crisis. This America can deliver. The Russians can deliver arms, and the Chinese can go elsewhere in Africa and offer great public works projects as they do in turn for big mineral deposits. The Americans can actually, and they only, can actually take an ailing economy and revive it. I think it's feasible, I think it's urgent, and I think it will be done.
Israel has joined the natural gas race, and Energy Minister Steinitz wants to make absolutely sure that every stone be unturned and that nothing is left to waste. ILTV's Natalie Twersky has more on the story.
It's already known that the Mediterranean Sea has huge gas reserves, and Energy Minister Yuval Steinitz is determined that offshore deposits be found and developed. Steinitz issued an invitation to companies to enter into the bidding for rights to search for gas and oil in Israeli waters. Steinitz said that according to experts, most of the natural gas in Israeli waters has yet to be found. In 2010 and 2013, developers discovered the major fields of Tamar and Leviathan off the Israeli coast, which will soon turn Israel into a major gas exporter. A recent survey indicates that new sites could produce around 6 billion barrels of oil and over 2 billion cubic meters of gas. Israel's Tamar field began production in 2013 and has an estimated 238 billion cubic meters of reserves. Leviathan was discovered in 2010 and is set to begin production in 2019. It holds an estimated 19 trillion cubic meters of natural gas.
Israel and Iran are often seen as mortal enemies, and yet an exhibition of Iranian contemporary art is currently on display at the Islamic Museum in Jerusalem. Today I have the pleasure of having the man who made it all happen, curator Yossi Lemon, joining me in the studio today. How are you? Thank you for coming.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So first of all, what gave you the idea to bring Iranian art to Israel?
Okay, 35 years ago, I was standing on the border of Iran, dreaming about entering Iran, which was impossible, of course. I dreamt about this for years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And then I decided to bring Iran to Jerusalem because I admire the culture. It's one of the oldest cultures in the world. And it affected 3,000 years ago our culture. Words that came from, for example, the word religion, dat is from law in Farsi. And there are a lot of examples. And the culture is deep and interesting, and I wanted people to get to be exposed to this culture.
So my second question is, seeing as how it's so difficult to kind of travel and do certain things between Israel and Iran, how did you manage to get all of these works out of Iran and into the country for this exhibit?
Of course, it's impossible to bring direct.
Right.
I can go to Iran, but I will never be able to get out. So I had to find other venues, middle people, to realize this exhibition. So I went to my friends in the Czech Republic, in the Moravian Gallery in Brno, and together with Marta Silvestrova, the curator in the Czech Republic, we created the first collection. Then we collected more works from the Slovak Republic and from Germany and England, and altogether we created 60 works.
Okay. So you put this together over the course of how long?
It took almost 1.5 years.
Wow, that's dedication right there. So, how would you describe Iranian art? We get a lot of feedback from what people think. The stereotype is that it would probably be anti-Semitic or anti-Israel. What's your experience with this?
It has nothing to do with Israel, this exhibition.
Not at all.
It's all about merge of cultures, the Eastern Persian culture and the Western culture combined together to a synthesis which is fantastic and unique and special and original. It's for the first time something totally new, this effect of ancient typography and new modern images.
Actually, yeah, I wanted to actually ask you about that because first of all, we noticed that a lot of the images, these are posters, and a lot of them have Persian lettering and writing in it. Is that a common style?
It is. It's a style that was developed by the fathers of the Iranian modern graphic design that brought the Western culture in the 60s and 70s, combined with old tradition, and created something beautiful and new that everyone can appreciate.
So, so being, a modern style and incorporating, old styles and Western styles and things like that, how is that received in Iran? Are these works on display in Iran?
No, but it was mentioned in Iran, and this is very important. It was mentioned, and I think the name of the exhibition, A Sign from Iran, is based on the dream that maybe there will be a bridge between those two cultures.
I see.
Because we can benefit a lot from it. We have to look at the better sides of cultures, and instead of looking at the Iranians only in stereotypes as our vicious enemies.
So, and then I guess I wanted to know, the exhibition comes to a close tomorrow. What becomes of the art?
The art is going back to the Moravian Gallery. It's part of their collection. And we are going to think about our new exhibition.
Which is?
My dream is to bring art from Syria.
From Syria?
Yes. Because this is a hot potato now, by all means. And we should be aware it's only 150 kilometers from here, and we should take care of that. It's important, and it has an agenda, and maybe it will bring awareness to the problem.
All right, so it's like kind of you're saving artworks and things like what kind of artwork are you looking again for graphic design and posters and this type of work, or what are you going to be looking for?
It's graphic design and art together.
All right, well, thank you so much. I am really excited. I hope to see it before it closes down.
You have 24 hours.
I have 24 hours. I understand that these works, being so difficult to come by, are not for sale either.
They are not for sale, but they are in the Museum for Islamic Art in Jerusalem, and you are all invited for the last minute.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Regional tensions remain high today as US-backed Kurdish-led Syrian forces try to retake the city of Raqqa from the Islamic State. The Syria Democratic Forces coalition of Kurds, Arabs, and Christians say at least 30,000 fighters will participate in the campaign that they've dubbed the Euphrates Rage Operation. Kurdish officials also maintain that it's just good timing that just over the border, US-backed Iraqi forces are now penetrating Mosul, but deny that the two missions are coordinated. The problem is that while Washington sees the Kurds as the most effective deterrent to ISIS and a major part of the Raqqa offensive, Ankara views them as terrorists. The Americans also know it's imperative to root ISIS out from Raqqa and want the Kurds' help in doing it because it serves as a command post for the extremists battling the Iraqi troops in Mosul. Turkish President Erdogan has made it clear that he will never accept the Kurdish ethnic group from engaging in the city's liberation, and so far there's been no response from Turkey to today's announcement. Over 100 Canadian cyclists rode alongside 70 disabled Army veterans in the annual Courage in Motion bike ride from Jerusalem to Eilat. During the 5-day ride, the guests heard the soldiers' moving stories of courage, resilience, and rehabilitation. Each of the Canadian riders are also raising sponsorship funds that are donated to the Beit Halochem Wounded Soldiers Centers. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz spoke to two of the riders and asked about their motivation.
Well, this is my third year doing this, and I'm just going to say that it's an inspiration to come here. When I first heard about this organization, I thought, what better way to A, see Israel, do what I'm passionate about, which is cycling, and 3, be inspired by people that have really faced a challenge every day of their life. And a 1-day or 5-day challenge here is nothing compared to what they go through.
Brenda, this is your first time, and you haven't yet gotten to even meet any of the Israeli vets.
I haven't met any vets yet, but the stories that I hear are incredible, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity of meeting everybody and seeing what an incredible organization this is and what they do to support them. I think it's an amazing, wonderful thing.
Lisa, how does the bike ride translate into help for Beit Halochem, for the Israeli wounded soldiers?
Well, first of all, these vets train all year for this as a goal for them. And so it's also a motivation for them to have a focus. And how does the biking? We all have to fundraise. It's part of being on this and being privileged to come on this trip, is that we have to raise a certain amount of money and also spread the word about Beit Halochem so that all our friends know about it.
And interestingly enough, this year they've got the largest group of people that they've ever had, so I think that the word is spread.
There are how many Canadians came?
Well, I'd say about 100.
I think they have 100 this year, and this is the largest by far.
Yeah, so the word is spreading.
And we bring our friends every year. I brought a group. I probably have about 6 friends that came with me this year, or more, maybe 8. You're my friend.
Yeah, I'm her friend.
You'll have a lot of new friends.
We'll have new friends, and then I get to see some of the vets that I've seen every year that I get so inspired by.
Right.
And anytime we have a muscle cramp or an ache or a back pain, we just think about them doing the climbs.
Right. Right.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, how is the actual ride itself today? Is it tough riding?
It's very tough
Day
riding.
one is always the hard.
But it's
hard
very,
day.
it's a very hilly,
Very hilly.
very hilly, incredible. I mean, riding into Jerusalem is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, what
but
a
it's
great way
hard.
to see
It's
it.
a hard ride.
Yeah,
You're only on the first day. You're at the beginning of this
Yes.
particular
Yes.
trip, but you've always got next year to look forward to. Is this something you think that you'll do on a yearly basis?
I think it's a great organization, and I plan to support it as long as I can.
Yeah. Well, as I said, it's my third year, and hopefully there'll be many more. So long as I can cycle, I'm looking forward to coming back.
We're
here.
very grateful to all the vets that have fought in the army because, you know, they're saving, they're helping our homeland. They're saving it for us, and we're very, very grateful. And honestly, there isn't enough that we can do. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us at ILTV.
Sure. Thank you.
It's always said that there is a first time for everything, and this time it's an awareness-raising swim across the Dead Sea. 28 athletes and eco-activists dived in on the Jordanian side of the sea, paddling 9 miles across to reach the shores of Israel. The swimmers accomplished their feat in a desperate bid to draw attention to an environmental disaster that's causing the body of water to disappear. It lies at the lowest elevation on Earth, but has about the highest salinity level. The water is about 10 times saltier than the ocean, and drinking it can be fatal, which is exactly how it earned its name, the Dead Sea.
And this is the first time in history that this swim has ever been done. So it's really a great initiative. And we understand why it's never been done. It's very salty.
The participants also wore snorkels and face masks to keep the water from leaking into their eyes or their lungs during the 7-hour marathon.
The salt makes a big difference.
Just sugar.
It's nice to float, but it's to keep the salt out of the body is a challenge.
According to the EcoPeace Middle East environmental group that organized the swim, the sea has receded 80 feet over the past 3 decades alone. They're blaming mining, mineral extraction methods, and water diversion by Jordan, Israel, and Syria for killing the sea. The group's Israeli, Jordanian, and Palestinian members are demanding their respective governments immediately take action to save the natural wonder that they warn could disappear as soon as the year 2050.
If nothing is done, we're going to continue to see the loss of heritage that is the heritage of all of us. And therefore, we refuse to think about even the possibility of nothing being done. If these swimmers today can risk their lives, coming from all over the world, in this call to save the Dead Sea, we can't let the global community down.
Not only is the Dead Sea mentioned in the Bible, but it's one of the most spectacular sights on Earth. Many visitors come from all over for the therapeutic properties associated with its mineral-rich waters and mud, and resort hotels have been built along both the Israeli and Jordanian shores. Mosul is home to the widest variety of immersive international experiences for Jewish young adults 18 to 30. Find the right study abroad internship, service learning, or Jewish studies program to help you grow as a person, a professional, and a leader, while also developing a robust global professional network that includes Israelis and Jews from around the world. And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Between cyclists riding for vets or swimmers raising awareness for the Dead Sea, we've been hearing a lot of stories recently of people doing extraordinarily courageous things. So today's word is ometz, meaning courage. What takes ometz for you is often different than what takes ometz for others, but what is consistent is that the things that require ometz are usually for the greater good. It takes ometz to demonstrate peacefully in the face of real danger. It takes ometz to actually hold ourselves and others accountable for our actions. And it takes ometz to be honest, even when you know it might hurt someone. For some, it may take all their ometz just to walk out the front door. Just remember not to judge others by the challenges that they face, because ometz is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. ILTV's weather forecast is sponsored by Adopt a Savta, taking care of Israel's lonely Holocaust survivors. Tonight should be partly cloudy with a chance of rain and a low of 62 or 17 degrees Celsius. You can expect little change tomorrow, as it's looking to be partly cloudy again with a high of 73 or 23 degrees Celsius. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.85 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching, and see you tonight.